You know that feeling when you catch yourself in the mirror? That split second where time seems to have played a trick on you? The face staring back isn't quite the one you remember. Lines have appeared overnight, it seems. Your hair's gone silver at the temples. And suddenly you're wondering, where did the years go? Here's the thing about aging that nobody talks about. It's not really about the wrinkles or the grey hair. It's about our relationship with change itself. The Buddha understood this thousands of years ago. He taught that our suffering doesn't come from aging, it comes from fighting it. I remember my grandmother telling me once, "Growing old isn't for cowards." She was right, but she was also missing something crucial. Growing old isn't about being brave in the face of loss. It's about understanding that what we call loss is actually transformation. So let me share something with you. 12 profound truths that will completely shift how you see this journey we're all on. These aren't just philosophical ideas. They're practical wisdom that can transform your entire experience of growing older. 1. You will be forgotten faster than you think. And that's beautiful. This one hits hard, doesn't it? All those accomplishments you're proud of, the career you built brick by brick, the home you created with such care, the reputation you carefully cultivated over decades. Eventually, they'll fade from memory. Your children will get busy with their own lives. Your friends will have their own stories to tell. The world will move on without you. But here's what's beautiful about this truth. The Buddha taught about anatta, the doctrine of no self. We think we're these permanent, fixed beings who need to leave lasting marks on the world. We spend our lives trying to build monuments to ourselves. But actually, we're more like waves in the ocean. We rise, we dance for a while, then we merge back into the great flow of life. I once heard a story about an old Zen master who lived in the mountains. People came from far and wide to seek his wisdom. He'd helped countless souls find peace, guided them through their darkest moments. Yet he lived simply, wanting nothing for himself. One day a young student asked him, "Master, doesn't it sadden you that people might forget your name when you're gone?" The old man smiled, that gentle, knowing smile that comes only with deep understanding. He pointed to the river flowing past his temple. "Tell me," he said, "where is the water that was here yesterday?" The student hesitated. It's flowed on." "Exactly, yet the river remains. The water that was here yesterday is now nourishing fields downstream, giving life to plants, quenching the thirst of animals, supporting entire ecosystems. Did it disappear, or did it become something greater?" The student sat in silence, watching the endless flow of water. "We are like that water," the master continued. "Our individual forms may pass, but our essence lives on, in the kindness we've shown, in the wisdom we've shared, in the love we've given. These things don't disappear. They become part of the eternal flow. See, it's not about being remembered. It's about the ripples you create. The kindness you show today doesn't disappear when you're gone. It lives on in the hearts of those you've touched, like a candle lighting 1,000 others without losing its own flame." Think about it. Do you remember every teacher who ever inspired you? Probably not their names, but their influence shaped you anyway. The warmth of a parent's hug, the guidance of a mentor, the generosity of a stranger who helped you when you needed it most. All these things remain woven into the fabric of your existence. There's this beautiful Zen saying, "A teacher affects eternity. They can never tell where their influence stops." The same is true for every act of kindness, every moment of understanding, every gesture of love you've shared throughout your life. So let go of the need to be remembered. Focus on living well right now. Be kind. Be present. That's how you leave a true legacy, not in monuments or achievements, but in the countless small ways you've made the world a little bit better. 2. Your body will slow down, so learn to dance with it. Remember when you could run upstairs without thinking? When you could work all day and dance all night? When your body felt like this limitless vessel for your dreams and ambitions? Now your knees have opinions about everything. Your back protests when you bend. The body you once trusted now moves with caution, reminding you daily that it's not what it used to be. This feels like betrayal, doesn't it? Like your oldest friend has turned against you. But here's what Buddhism teaches us. Your body isn't your enemy. It's your oldest companion. It's carried you through every moment of your life, from childhood adventures to adult responsibilities, from first love to deep friendship, from celebration to mourning. It's healed from sickness, weathered stress, adapted to everything you've thrown at it. Instead of resenting it for slowing down, why not show it some gratitude? There's this beautiful Buddhist parable about an old monk who struggled with his daily tasks. He'd once been strong, capable of carrying heavy buckets of water from the river to the monastery, but now his arms shook with the effort. His back ached. His steps were slower. Frustrated with his declining strength, he asked his teacher, "Master, why does my body fail me? It once obeyed my every command." The teacher smiled and handed him a cracked clay pot. "This pot," he said, "once held water perfectly. Now it leaks. Does that make it useless?" The monk examined the pot. Water dripped steadily from the hairline cracks. "No, master. It still holds some water. And the water that escapes, where does it go?" The monk looked closer. It nourishes the earth, creates small pools where insects drink, helps the moss grow on the stones. Exactly. The pot has changed, but it still serves a purpose, perhaps an even more beautiful purpose than before. The old monk understood. His body was like that pot. It had changed, but it still had value, still had purpose. The leaking wasn't failure, it was transformation. Your body is like that pot. It's changed, but it still has purpose. Maybe you can't run as fast, but you can still walk and appreciate the journey. Maybe you can't lift as much, but you can still carry love and wisdom. Your hands might shake, but they can still reach out in kindness. Your voice might be softer, but it can still speak words of comfort. Here's what I learned from an elderly yoga teacher. She couldn't do the poses she once could, but she taught us something profound. The body is not a machine to be fixed when it breaks. It's a garden to be tended with love. She would modify every pose, working with her limitations instead of against them. And somehow, her practice was more beautiful because of it. Listen to your body instead of fighting it. If it asks for rest, give it rest. If movement is difficult, find gentle ways to stay active. Treat it like the wise old friend it is. Thank it for all it's done. Work with it, not against it. 3. People will drift away. And that's natural, still. This one cuts deep. Friends who were once inseparable become distant. The colleague who used to call every week now sends occasional texts. Family members who used to gather regularly now live their separate lives. Some people just disappear without explanation, without closure, leaving silence where there was once laughter. It's easy to take this personally. Did I do something wrong? Was I not interesting enough? Not fun enough? Not worthy of their time? But Buddhism teaches us that everything is impermanent, including relationships. People come into our lives when we need them and leave when their role in our story is done. Just like the seasons change, so do the people around us. A young monk once asked his master, "Why do people leave us when we love them? Why do friendships fade when we pour so much of ourselves into them?" The master took him to a riverbank and pointed to the flowing water. "See how the river moves? Each drop flows past us, never staying in one place. Some drops travel together for a while, merging and dancing side by side. Others separate quickly, carried away by the current. But notice, the drops that separate don't disappear. They continue their journey, eventually reaching the sea." The monk nodded, watching the water flow. "People are like that," the master continued. "Some walk beside us for a short time, others for years, but all must keep moving along their own path. It's not their departure that should sadden us, but our refusal to accept that their presence was never meant to be permanent." The monk sat quietly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "But here's the beautiful part," the master added. "Just as the river drops eventually reach the same sea, the people who truly matter will find their way back to you. Not always in the same form, but in the love and lessons they've left behind." I think about my own life, friends from college who I was certain would be lifelong companions, colleagues who felt like family, neighbors who knew all my secrets. Many have drifted away, caught up in their own currents. But the ones who remain, they're the ones who were meant to stay, and the ones who left. They served their purpose in my story. Instead of mourning every lost connection, celebrate the ones that endure. Invest your energy in people who bring you peace and joy. Value the friend who still calls to check in, the neighbor who smiles when you pass by, the grandchild who listens to your stories with wide eyes. And remember, even if someone's no longer present, the love you shared doesn't disappear. It lives on in your heart, woven into the person you've become. Every person who has touched your life has left something behind. A lesson, a memory, a way of seeing the world. These gifts remain long after the person has moved on. Don't close your heart to new connections either. There's always room for new friendships, no matter your age. Life is still offering you moments of connection if you remain open to them. 4. You won't look young forever. And that's a gift. There comes that moment. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror and realize you no longer look like the person you once were. The skin is softer, marked by time. The hair has turned silver, white, or simply thinned. The hands show the work they've done. The eyes hold depths that weren't there before. Society tells us to fight this, to erase wrinkles with creams and procedures, to dye our hair, to dress young, to chase youth at all costs. But what if we saw aging differently? Your wrinkles aren't flaws. They're the lines of a well-lived life. Each one tells a story. Laugh lines around your eyes from years of joy. Worry lines on your forehead from caring deeply. Lines around your mouth from speaking words of comfort to others. Your grey hair isn't something to be ashamed of. It's a crown of experience. There's this Zen story about an elderly woman who visited a master known for his wisdom. With sadness in her eyes, she said, "Master, I look in the mirror and don't recognize myself. My beauty has faded. My hair is silver. My skin is lined. I feel invisible in a world that values youth." The master smiled and led her to his garden. He pointed at a cherry blossom tree in full bloom, its branches heavy with pink flowers. "This is beauty, isn't it?" She nodded, remembering her own youth. Then he took her to an ancient pine tree at the edge of the garden. Its bark was weathered and deeply grooved. Its branches were twisted and gnarled from years of wind and weather. Some limbs were broken, others grew in unexpected directions. "And this?" She hesitated. "It's different. But there's something dignified about it, something strong and enduring." The master chuckled. "That's because you have wisdom. A child may only see beauty in the cherry blossom, the obvious, surface beauty. But with time and experience, we learn to appreciate the pine, the depth, the character, the stories written in bark and branch." He paused, letting her absorb this. "The cherry blossom is beautiful for a few weeks each year. But the pine, it's magnificent all year round. It provides shelter in storms, shade in summer, and beauty in every season. Which would you rather be?" The woman understood. Her beauty hadn't faded. It had transformed. Like the pine tree, she had gained character, depth, resilience. The surface beauty of youth had been replaced by something more profound. Think of the elders you admire. Were they beautiful because they looked young, or because they carried themselves with dignity, warmth, and wisdom? The twinkle in their eyes, the way they listen with patience, the kindness in their voice, the confidence that comes from having lived through difficulties and emerged stronger. That's real beauty. There's a certain radiance that only comes with age, the confidence of knowing who you are, the strength of having endured life's storms, the gentleness that comes from understanding others' struggles, the freedom that comes from no longer needing to prove anything to anyone. Let go of the illusion that beauty fades. Beauty transforms. In your later years, your beauty is found in your presence, your resilience, and the kindness you offer the world. It's found in the way you've learned to love yourself and others. It's found in the peace you've made with life's imperfections. 5. You'll watch more people. You love die, but love never dies. This is perhaps the hardest truth of all. As the years pass, you'll experience loss more frequently. Parents who seemed immortal, siblings who shared your childhood, friends who knew your secrets, sometimes even children, which breaks the natural order of things. One by one, they leave this world, and nothing prepares you for that ache. Grief is not something you get over. It's something you learn to live with. But here's what Buddhism teaches us. Love doesn't die. The people you've lost live on in you, in the lessons they taught, the stories they shared, the love they gave. Every time you speak their name, share their wisdom, or carry forward their kindness, they're with you. Every time you laugh at a joke they would have found funny, or handle a situation the way they would have, they're present. There's this story about a woman named Kisa Gutami. When her young son died, she was overcome with sorrow. She couldn't accept that he was gone. She carried his lifeless body from house to house, begging for medicine that could bring him back to life. People thought she had lost her mind with grief. Finally, she came to the Buddha. He looked at her with infinite compassion and said, "I can help you. But first, bring me a mustard seed from a home that has never known death." With renewed hope, she knocked on every door in the village, but every family had lost someone. A parent, a child, a sibling, a friend. Each house held its own stories of grief. By the end of her search, she realized she wasn't alone in her suffering. Death is woven into the fabric of life. No one is spared. We all must face loss. But the love we share, that never truly fades. She returned to the Buddha, understanding finally that she needed to let go of her son's physical form. But she also understood that the love between them was eternal. It lived on in her heart, in her memories, in the way she would treat other children with extra tenderness. Think about the people you've lost. Maybe it was a parent whose laughter still echoes in your memory, whose advice you still hear in your head when making difficult decisions. A friend who gave you guidance that continues to shape your choices. A partner whose love still influences how you love others. They may be gone, but they're not absent. Have you ever noticed how certain smells, songs, or phrases bring someone back to life, if only for a moment? That's their presence lingering in you, reminding you that love transcends the physical world. Grief is painful, yes, but it's also a testament to the depth of our love. The greater the love, the deeper the loss. Yet, rather than wishing the pain away, we can transform it into gratitude. Instead of focusing on what we've lost, we can cherish what we were given. I learned this from a woman who lost her husband after 50 years of marriage. She said, "I could spend my remaining years mourning that he's gone, or I could spend them celebrating that he was here. I choose celebration." She didn't mean she wasn't sad. She meant she chose to honor their love by living fully, not by dying slowly. Aging means witnessing more loss, but it also means having had the privilege to love deeply. 2. Form connections that matter. To carry forward the spirit of those who touched our lives. As long as you keep loving, those who have passed remain a part of you. And in that, they are never truly gone. 6. Your dreams will change, and that's growth. Remember all those dreams you had when you were young? The places you'd visit, the things you'd accomplish, the person you'd become, the career you'd build, the house you'd own, the adventures you'd have. Some of those dreams came true, others didn't, and that's okay. Actually, it's more than okay. It's necessary. Buddhism teaches us that attachment to outcomes causes suffering. When we cling too tightly to how we thought life should unfold, we miss the beauty of how it actually does. We spend so much energy mourning the life we didn't live that we forget to appreciate the life we did. Your dreams changing isn't failure. It's evolution. You're not the same person you were at 20, or 30, or 40. Your values have shifted. Your priorities have deepened. Your understanding of what truly matters has grown. Of course, your dreams have changed too. Maybe you once dreamed of traveling the world. Now you dream of quiet mornings in your garden, watching the seasons change. Maybe you once wanted to be famous. Now you want to be present for your grandchildren. Maybe you once chased excitement. Now you seek peace. These aren't lesser dreams. They're wiser ones. They're dreams that have been refined by experience, tempered by understanding, and deepened by wisdom. I know a woman who spent her 20s dreaming of becoming a famous artist. She worked tirelessly, sacrificing relationships and health for her art. But fame never came. For years, she felt like a failure. Now, in her 70s, she teaches art to children at a community center. She'll never be famous, but she's found something better: purpose, joy, the satisfaction of seeing young faces light up when they create something beautiful. "I thought I wanted to be remembered," she told me. "But what I really wanted was to matter. And I do matter, just not in the way I thought I would." The dreams of youth are often about getting something: recognition, wealth, achievement. The dreams of age are about being something kind, wise, peaceful, useful. They're about connection rather than conquest, about depth rather than breadth, about meaning rather than metrics. Don't mourn the dreams that didn't come true. Celebrate the ones that evolved into something better. Trust that your changing dreams are a sign of growth, not failure. 7. You'll become more sensitive, and that's wisdom. Ever notice how things affect you differently now? A sad movie hits harder. A kind gesture moves you to tears. The beauty of a sunset takes your breath away. A piece of music can transport you instantly to another time and place. News stories about suffering affect you more deeply than they used to. This isn't weakness. It's wisdom. As we age, our hearts break open in the most beautiful way. We become more aware of life's fragility, more grateful for its gifts. We cry more easily because we understand more deeply. We laugh more freely because we know how precious joy is. We're moved by beauty because we recognize how rare and fleeting it is. Young people often think they need to be tough, to build walls around their hearts to protect themselves. But age teaches us that the walls we build to keep out pain also keep out joy. True, strength comes from remaining open, vulnerable, tender. There's this beautiful Buddhist concept called the soft heart. It's not about being weak or overly emotional. It's about maintaining the capacity to feel deeply, to be moved by life's beauty and pain. It's about not closing yourself off from the full spectrum of human experience. I remember watching my grandfather cry at my wedding. He was a tough man, a veteran who'd seen combat. But as I walked down the aisle, tears streamed down his face. Later, he told me, "I can see the whole arc of life in moments like this. The joy, the hope, the fragility. It's all there." That's the gift of aging. You begin to see the bigger picture. You understand that everything is connected. A child's laughter reminds you of your own children's giggles. A stranger's kindness reminds you of all the kindness you've received. A sunset reminds you of all the sunsets you've watched with people you love. Don't apologize for your sensitivity. Embrace it. It's a sign that you're fully alive, fully human, fully present to the miracle of existence. It's a sign that your heart hasn't hardened, that you've retained the capacity for wonder. 8. You'll worry less about what others think. And that's freedom. Something magical happens as you get older. You start caring less about what other people think. The opinions that once kept you awake at night, they lose their power. The need to impress, to fit in, to be accepted, it begins to fade. This isn't because you become uncaring or antisocial. It's because you finally understand that other people's opinions of you are none of your business. You can't control what they think, and trying to do so is exhausting and ultimately futile. The Buddha taught that we suffer when we seek approval from others. We contort ourselves, sacrifice our authentic selves, all for the fleeting approval of people who are too busy worrying about their own lives to spend much time thinking about ours. True peace comes from within. When you stop performing for an audience, you can finally be yourself. When you stop trying to be what others want you to be, you can discover who you actually are. I learned this lesson from an elderly woman I knew who always wore the most colorful, eclectic outfits. Bright purple with orange polka dots, mismatched jewelry, hats that belonged in another era. When I was younger, I was embarrassed to be seen with her, but she was the happiest person I knew. "Life's too short to dress boring," she'd say. "I spent my youth trying to fit in. Now I'm going to stand out." She taught me that authenticity is the greatest gift you can give yourself. When you stop caring about others' opinions, you're free to express your true self. You can wear what makes you comfortable. Say what you mean. Do what brings you joy. This doesn't mean being rude or inconsiderate. It means being genuine. It means making choices based on your own values, not on what you think others expect. The fear of judgment keeps us small. The freedom from that fear allows us to expand into who we really are. 9. You'll value time differently, and that's precious. When you're young, time feels infinite. You waste it carelessly, thinking there's always more. Where that came from. You spend hours on things that don't matter, with people who don't enrich your life, pursuing goals that don't fulfill you. But as you age, you begin to understand time's true value. You realize that it's not unlimited. You become more conscious of how you spend it, more protective of it, more grateful for it. You stop saying yes to things that drain your energy. You prioritize experiences over possessions. You choose quality over quantity in everything. Relationships, activities, even thoughts. This isn't being selfish. It's being wise. You've learned that time is your most precious resource, and you're finally using it consciously. I think about my grandmother. In her final years, she would spend hours just sitting in her garden, watching the birds, feeling the sun on her face. To younger people, it might have, I seemed like she was wasting time. But she was actually doing something profound. She was being present. She was savoring moments that she knew were limited. "I don't have time for anything that doesn't bring me joy," she'd say. And she meant it. She stopped reading books she didn't enjoy, stopped watching television shows that bored her, stopped spending time with people who drained her energy. Instead, she focused on what mattered. Long phone calls with old friends, quiet mornings with her coffee, visits from grandchildren, simple pleasures that filled her heart. This shift in how you value time is one of aging's greatest gifts. You finally understand that quantity doesn't matter as much as quality, that a few deep relationships are worth more than many superficial ones. That a quiet day filled with small joys is more valuable than a busy day filled with stress. 10. You'll forgive more easily, and that's healing. Holding grudges requires too much energy. As you age, you start to see the pointlessness of anger. You understand that forgiveness isn't about condoning what someone did, it's about freeing yourself from the burden of resentment. People make mistakes. They hurt us, sometimes deeply. Parents who weren't perfect. Friends who betrayed our trust. Partners who disappointed us. Strangers who were cruel. We can spend years carrying these wounds, letting them poison our present. But the Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal. You're the one who gets burned. The person who hurt you has moved on with their life. You're the one still suffering. Forgiveness becomes easier when you realize that everyone is struggling. Everyone is trying to find their way. Everyone is dealing with their own pain. The person who hurt you was probably hurting themselves. This doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it helps you let go of the need for revenge. I learned this from a man who spent decades angry at his father for being absent during his Buster fall. Childhood. The anger ate away at him, affected his relationships, his health, his happiness. Finally, in his 60s, he visited his father's grave and said, "I forgive you, not because you deserved it, but because I deserve peace." The relief was immediate. The weight he'd carried for decades suddenly lifted. He wasn't condoning his father's behavior. He was choosing to stop letting it control his life. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting or reconciling. It's about releasing the grip that past hurts have on your present happiness. It's about choosing peace over pain, healing over hurt. 11. You'll find peace in simplicity, and that's contentment. The older you get, the more you realize that happiness doesn't come from having more. It comes from needing less. The things that once seemed essential become optional. The goals that once drove you lose their urgency. You stop chasing the next promotion, the bigger house, the newer car. You begin to appreciate what you already have. A simple meal becomes a celebration. A quiet evening becomes a treasure. A conversation with a friend becomes a gift. This simplicity isn't about deprivation. It's about clarity. You finally know what matters and what doesn't. You're free from the exhausting pursuit of more. I think about a couple I knew who spent their retirement traveling the world, not to exotic destinations, but to simple places where they could sit quietly and appreciate life. A bench by a lake, a small cafe in a village, a garden where they could watch flowers bloom. We used to think we needed to see everything, do everything, have everything, they told me. Now we know that everything we need is right here, right now. We just have to pay attention. They found contentment, not in acquisition, but in appreciation. Not in doing more, but in being more present. Not in having the most, but in enjoying what they had. This is the gift of aging. You discover that contentment isn't about getting what you want. It's about wanting what you have. It's about finding joy in the ordinary, peace in the present, satisfaction in the simple. 12. You'll understand that this too shall pass, and That's peace. Perhaps the greatest gift of aging is perspective. You've lived through enough ups and downs to know that nothing lasts forever. The good times and the bad times, and they all pass. This knowledge brings profound peace. When you're going through a difficult period, you know it won't last forever. You've survived hard times before. You have evidence that you can endure, that you can heal, that you can find joy again. This doesn't make the pain less real, but it makes it more bearable. When you're experiencing joy, you savor it more fully because you know it's temporary. You don't take good times for granted because you understand their preciousness. You're fully present for happiness because you know it won't last forever. The Buddha's final words were reportedly, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Work out your salvation with diligence. Everything changes. Everything passes." This isn't cause for despair. It's cause for presence. When you truly understand impermanence, you stop clinging so tightly to things. You hold them lightly, appreciating them while they're here, letting them go when they're gone. You find peace in the constant flow of change rather than fighting against it. Aging isn't a punishment. It's a privilege. Every year, every wrinkle, every grey hair is a mark of the life you've lived, the lessons you've learned, and the love you've shared. Not everyone gets to grow old. It's a gift that not all receive. Too often, society teaches us to fear aging, to resist it at all costs. Anti-aging products, youth-obsessed culture, the message that getting older is something to be ashamed of, something to hide, something to fight against. But Buddhism teaches us otherwise. Aging isn't the enemy. Fear is. Resistance is. The refusal to accept life's natural flow is what causes suffering. When we resist change, we suffer. When we cling to youth, we lose sight of the gifts that come with age, wisdom, patience, a deeper appreciation for the present moment, the freedom that comes from knowing yourself, the peace that comes from accepting life as it is. The more we fight the inevitable, the more we fill our hearts with frustration and regret. But the moment we surrender to life's natural flow, we unlock profound peace. We see that aging is not something being taken away from us, but something being given to us. So what will you do with these truths? Will you fight against time, or will you embrace it with an honest, open heart? Will you dwell in the past, longing for what once was? Or will you celebrate what still is? The choice is yours. But if you choose acceptance, if you choose gratitude, then you'll discover that aging isn't an end. It's a new beginning, a chance to live more deeply, love more fully, and find peace in the present moment. Carry these lessons with you. Walk this path not with fear, but with grace. Find joy in the wisdom you've gained. Share your stories with those who need to hear them. Laugh freely at life's absurdities. Love deeply, despite the risk of loss. Live fully in whatever time you have left. Remember, you are not just getting older. You are becoming more yourself, more authentic, more wise, more compassionate, more free. Aging isn't the closing of a book. It's simply the turning of a page. And the next chapter? It's yours to write. Make it beautiful. Thanks for watching. Click here to check out another video.